I want to come to you, Shehzad Poonawalla, first. The Prime Minister says that Revadi culture must stop. He attacks, without naming the app, on subsidies that are given, electricity, public transport subsidies, and yet the government consistently has decided, now we are out of COVID, but seems to have decided that the scheme they brought in April 2020, providing almost 80 crore, they claim, free ration, will continue just for 3 months in time for Gujarat and Himachal. Is this also an election, Revadi, yes or no?
First of all, you can see the elections coming up, but you're not seeing the fact that it's been on for 25 months where there were no, our elections are held every 6 months. So we should have one election in 5 years, single election should be held. But that's not the point. Let's understand the difference between a Revadi and a welfare scheme. A Revadi is short term, a Revadi is unessential. For instance, if I promise a cooker, irrespective of the class of the person, to every voter who votes for me, as opposed to food grains and rations being given free of cost for food security of the most vulnerable sections. That is a welfare scheme, and that won't be opposed by any party. I don't know if the Congress is opposing this. Secondly, let me tell you, one aims at tushtikaran. For instance, the Aam Aadmi Party says, "Main bijli aur pani ka bill maaf karunga," but 88% of the people or 80% of the people in unauthorized colonies don't have piped water connections at all. One aims at truptikaran. For instance, 9 crore water tap connections have been given in the last 8 years, or if you see, 12 crore toilets have been built. One aims at only announcement. For instance, the Aam Aadmi Party announces that we will give free bus rides to all women. But are there DTC buses in Delhi? No. It was 11,000 they were supposed to procure. Today it's down to less than 4,000 buses. The other aims at not tushtikaran but at announcement and delivery of that announcement. And therefore those targeted deliveries take place where you have zero corruption. Earlier there was a time when you used to give those subsidies, 85 paisa used to be eaten up. Here through DBT and through Jan Dhan and JIM Trinity, the beneficiary gets the entire benefit. One is aimed at only making lollipop promises, the other is aimed at improving the life of somebody. For instance, 500 new schools were supposed to be built by Aam Aadmi Party. They will not be able to name even 100 new schools, they just keep talking about classrooms. On the other hand, what we have done the last 9 years, 8 years, I'll tell you, 35% schools had hand wash facilities. Today, 90% schools have hand wash facilities, which means when students go to school, they have access to water, clean water, sanitation, and therefore they do not get sick there. They can use more facilities there and they can stay longer at school. So this is the difference between a Revadi and a welfare culture. The Revadi puts a burden on the exchequer. For instance, Delhi's revenue surplus has come down by 88%. On the other hand, when you have proper fiscal management, you have an economy that grows vibrantly at 13.5%, and the benefit reaches the end beneficiary.
Okay, let me first get from each of you where you stand on free ration for all. Supriya, Shrinate, do you believe this is a lollipop? Do you believe it's a sop, a Revadi? Or do you believe in a country where India ranks low on the hunger index, it's absolutely essential to have a food security scheme in place?
Forgotten. The Food Security Act was enacted by the UPA government led by the Congress party. So just to put it on record here, I am so glad we brought about a law which ensured that people in this country are fed. I just want to point out 2 or 3 things here. 80 crore people being fed is what the BJP keeps telling you on and on and on, almost nauseous. But their MPs in parliament say free fund ka khana kha rahe hain. Aapne free fund ke khane ko kara hai kya? उस MP के साथ क्या कार्रवाई हुई थी? I would really want to know. The second and a more important point is when you have to feed 80 crore people in India in a population of about 135 to 140 crore, it means that our people are in a plightful situation. Please understand the plight of the people. Please understand the joblessness. Please understand the hunger. It is not without a reason that we have consistently gone, lower and lower in the hunger index. The government may want to look away, but that is what high prices and hunger and poverty are doing to this country. And a very important point I want to make here. I want to make a very important point here. You talk about Revadis, you talk about, freebies, all of that. What about the gold coins that you hand over to the corporate sector? What about 4.5 lakh crore rupees let gone off because corporate tax was cut? And last but not the least, to talk about these things, you only have elections in mind. Because today the wheat stock in this country is at a 5-year low. Rice cultivation is down 13%, which means there is a real crisis of food grains. What
Okay.
Please do not question our people on Revaris and freebies, because you're doing all it takes to benefit the richy rich. Please understand, the poor in this country have been brought to this stage thanks to your flawed and wrong priorities.